Remind me to thank John for a lovely weekend.
So for the better part of a decade now, the Jurassic Park/World franchise has been in crisis, and one question has been gnawing at me since the credits rolled on the latest disaster. After the monumental disappointment of Jurassic World Rebirth, can this franchise ever recapture its original magic? Can it ever be redeemed? This isn't another doom scroll through franchise failure. I'm after the salvage here. What still works across 7 films when the dinosaurs stop being noise and start being cinema? The awe that sneaks back in, the clean visual grammar of suspense, the human scale stakes, the moral questions that bites harder than any raptor could. If there's a way back, it's hidden in those moments. Think of this as a rescue manual, not an autopsy. So I went back, I rewatched every single film from the masterpiece to the mediocrities to get to the bottom of it, and in doing so, something clicked. I think I found it. The exact moment about one of the sequels that isn't just a symptom of the decline, but the goddamn source code for everything that's gone wrong since. The point of no return that explains the nonsensical hybrids, the idiotic characters, and the complete lack of suspense we see today. It's the key that unlocks why this franchise is where it is. Now, the catalyst for this post-mortem is, of course, the recently released Jurassic World Rebirth. It's a useful litmus test. Rebirth shows, in high contrast, what's missing: coherent tension, earned wonder, and a point of view about humans messing with nature. It's not the end of the road so much as a flashing sign that tells us exactly where we took the wrong turn, and we're paying attention on how to steer it back. So here's how we're going to do this. Our journey is going to be a little unconventional. We're actually going to start this video with the fresh wound and dissect Jurassic World Rebirth to understand the current state of decay of the franchise. Then we're going to jump to 1993 to re-establish the baseline, how Spielberg builds awe, fear, and meaning with simple tools. After that, we'll move through to The Lost World, Jurassic Park III, Jurassic World, and Fallen Kingdom to see what still sings, what breaks, and why. And we'll end this video with a compact rescue plan. 5 rules any future Jurassic movie would need to follow if it wants to live again.
Nobody cares about these animals anymore.
Rebirth accidentally preserves a few strands of the franchise's DNA. If you amplify these, you get a path back to awe. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut, and Rebirth, in its infinite wisdom or sheer accidental incompetence, managed to stumble into a few glimpses of what could have been. It's like digging through a garbage dump and finding a slightly less moldy piece of bread. It's still disgusting, but, you know, there's potential. Okay, so in Rebirth, they gave us a shot of a valley full of Titanosauruses, a glorious CGI landscape that was completely disconnected from anyone's perspective. No human reaction, no sense of scale, just a big picture, like looking at a damn screensaver. It was a massive and frankly soulless shot of a valley full of dinosaurs. Compare that to the original, where Spielberg showed us the characters' wide-eyed, jaw-dropping faces before the slow pan to the Brachiosaurus. We saw their awe, so we felt awe. Remember the first film? The T-Rex attack wasn't a rock concert, it was silence. It was rain, metal bending, the thud of every footstep. In Rebirth, our new Colossus-sized dinosaur, which sounds like a rejected toy line, apparently decided to wear noise-cancelling headphones. No sound when it walks, 0. A creature the size of a damn building just tiptoeing. It's utterly baffling. It completely undermines any sense of its presence or threat. Most of the dinosaurs in Rebirth are actually comically slow, constantly missing, practically giving the characters a head start. The D-Rex, the world's most inefficient dinosaur, might I add, couldn't catch a child for God's sake. It's like they lobotomized them, dinosaurs actively betraying their inherent motivation of wanting to eat humans. In a movie full of people doing nothing but screaming, there's a seed of something here. A father's flawed competence, a desperate desire to protect his family using the only skill he actually possesses. If Rebirth, or a future film, God forbid, wanted to redeem them, lean into that. Let him actually sail them out of danger, not just get conveniently saved by our main crew. Give him agency beyond being loud. Give him a specific domain win, even if it's born from his initial stupidity. It's a clean motivation, however ill-conceived, that could be built around. But let's talk about the Snickers bar. You know the one if you've seen the movie. That glorious moment where a single innocent candy wrapper, probably still sticky, became the harbinger of a multi-billion-dollar apocalypse. The idea of it initially has a certain human, almost tactile banality to it. A scientist, a mundane snack, a small act of carelessness. It sets up an everyday relatable human error that should lead to immense stakes. We're in a high-tech facility, right? The stakes should feel adjacent. But then, because this is Rebirth, the payoff logic goes completely off the rails. The wrapper doesn't just jam a vent, it causes the entire compound to implode. No fail-safes, no alarms, just oops, Snickers wrapper, D-Rex is free. It undercuts any tension because this cause and effect is so utterly nonsensical it feels like a bad cartoon. A rule is introduced, this is a secure facility, then it's instantly ignored by a rogue piece of nougat. Poor, unadulterated absurdity. Here's the surgical fix. Don't make the wrapper itself the doomsday device, show it jamming a minor system, perhaps a pressure valve, creating a small localized malfunction that requires human intervention. This minor breach then allows a smaller, more intelligent hybrid already within the vents to exploit the weakness, disabling the actual fail-safes. As for that immediate escape, ditch the quip, replace it with a scientist frantically trying a manual override, a look of sheer gut-wrenching terror as they fail, knowing what's coming. That's the consequence, that's fear, not a damn Snickers wrapper. Forget the CGI volume, stage pursuits around actual obstacles. Give us a dinosaur navigating a cramped, destroyed building using its head, smashing through specific walls, not just a green screen chase across an open field. Fewer shots, clearer stakes, and for the love of God, give us tactile reality anchors. A footprint sinking into mud, a claw scrape on metal, the fog of breath on glass in a tense close-up. These tiny details sell the weight and presence of these creatures. Rebirth gave us endless wide shots that felt disconnected and soulless. We need to feel the dino, not just see it in a crowded frame. And then, the sheer lack of consequence. Characters in Rebirth have more plot armor than Jon Snow in the Battle of Winterfell. Dinosaurs comically miss. Sacrifices are undone. There's no genuine threat. If you break a rule, like say, sailing into dinosaur-infested waters, Mr. Delgado, you must pay for it. Visibly, an injury, lost gear, a louder, more aggressive predator. Make it hurt. Make it so that when something bad happens, the audience isn't thinking, oh, they'll be fine. But oh shit, this is real. Repeatability of consequence is how you build audience fear, not by having dinosaurs trip over their own feet. But if we really want to understand where Rebirth went wrong, if we want to trace the franchise's genetic decay, we have to go back to the source, back to the undeniable gold standard of the franchise. The precise sequel moment where the franchise DNA was first edited, the point of no return that changed everything. And to understand that, we first need to understand where it all began. 1993's Jurassic Park, the masterpiece itself.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Steven Spielberg was at the absolute zenith of his powers here. He is a master craftsman conducting a symphony of wonder and terror. The man knows how to make you love dinosaurs and, in the turn of a page, be utterly, primally terrified of them. He takes what was, in Michael Crichton's novel, a colder, more cynical story and injects it with a beating human heart. He understood that for the spectacle to land, we had to care about the tiny, fragile people about to be eaten. Spielberg tiptoes that perfect line between a family-friendly adventure and a genuinely violent, scary as hell monster movie. Think about the changes he made. In the book, John Hammond is a cold, greedy arsehole, a one-note caricature of corporate ambition. Spielberg, with the brilliant casting of Richard Attenborough, transforms him into a sympathetic, misguided grandfather. He's a man with a noble dream, blinded by a childlike wonder that makes his eventual failure all the more tragic. He's not a villain, he's a warning. And then there's Dr. Alan Grant. Spielberg added a simple, brilliant layer of dramatic tension. He makes Grant hate kids. It's not in the book, but it's a masterstroke. It gives Grant an actual arc beyond a man who knows about dinosaurs. He's forced to become a protector, a reluctant father figure, transforming his journey from a simple survival story into something with genuine emotional weight. This is what we talk about when we talk about vision. It's not just pointing a camera at a CGI monster, it's building a story brick by brick where every character, every choice, and every frame serves a purpose. It's a level of thoughtful filmmaking that seems to have gone extinct in this franchise. Now, let's talk about the dinosaurs, because even today, 30 years and billions of dollars in digital advancements later, the creatures in Jurassic Park feel more real, more tangible, and heavier than anything in the sequels. But why? Because Spielberg and his team weren't just showing off new tech, they were creating life. This film was a revolution. It was a goddamn quantum leap that changed the industry overnight. But here's the secret sauce: balance. Spielberg knew that the key wasn't to go all in on the new digital toys. He insisted on using Stan Winston's breathtaking animatronics for all the close-ups. When you see the T-Rex roar in the rain, when you see the sick Triceratops breathing, that's not pixels, that's a physical, tangible creation on set, interacting with the rain, the mud, and the actors. The thing looks so real, people genuinely believed a photo of Spielberg next to the animatronic was him with a real dying animal. Try pulling that off with the colossized whatever-saurus from Rebirth. And the CGI handled by the wizards at ILM was used for the shots that were impossible to do practically. The full body running shots, the sweeping herd movements. And by seamlessly blending the two, Spielberg created an illusion so perfect, so utterly convincing that our brains just accept it. The dinosaurs had weight, they had presence, they felt like they occupied real space. A perfect blockbuster needs more than just spectacle, it needs a soul, and the soul of Jurassic Park lies in its characters. David Koepp's script is an immaculate piece of work, a masterclass in economic storytelling where every single line of dialogue is purposeful. There's no fat here. Every conversation either builds character, explains the science, or ratchets up the tension. Sam Neill plays Dr. Grant with a perfect blend of academic curmudgeonness and a deep, infectious sense of awe. You see that Brachiosaurus for the first time through his eyes, and because he believes it, you believe it. Laura Dern's Ellie Sattler is not a damsel in distress. She's a competent, proactive hero who takes charge and gets her hands dirty, literally. Their chemistry is natural, it's academic, and it's utterly believable. Even the kids, who in any other film would be the single most annoying element, are fantastic. Spielberg has a mastery of working with child actors, and you genuinely fear for them when they're hiding from raptors in that kitchen. It's iconic. And then there's Jeff Goldblum as Dr. Ian Malcolm. Has there ever been a more perfect piece of casting? I don't know. He's the film's conscience, its voice of reason, the rockstar chaos mathematician who gets all the best lines and serves as the audience's ironic commentator. He's hilarious, he's effortlessly cool, but he's also the one delivering the movie's central thesis. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. He's not just comic relief, he's the beating philosophical heart of the film, and he still has the balls to draw the T-Rex away from the kids, nearly getting himself killed in the process. They are intelligent, flawed, and compelling human beings, which is why the stakes feel so goddamn real in this movie. This movie has ideas. It's a legitimate, thought-provoking debate about science, hubris, and the consequences of playing God, smuggled inside the skin of a summer blockbuster. The concept of this movie itself is just brilliant. Dino DNA from mosquitoes trapped in amber, patched with frog DNA. It's just plausible enough to make you lean in, to make the impossible feel possible. But the film never lets you forget the terrifying implications. Through Malcolm, the story relentlessly questions the morality of it all. The commercialization of life, the sheer arrogance of Hammond believing he can control forces he doesn't even begin to understand. It's an indictment of capitalism's hunger to package and sell wonder without any sense of responsibility. The irony of the film's own massive merchandising campaign is baked right into the script with mentions of lunchboxes and water bottles. The sequels misunderstood this completely. They devolved into a simple monster of the week formula with bigger, dumber, genetically engineered supervillain dinosaurs. They missed the point. The horror in the original isn't that the dinosaurs are evil, it's that they are animals. They are acting on instinct in an environment they shouldn't exist in. The villain isn't the dinosaurs, it's human hubris. It's the catastrophic failure of a system built on a fantasy of control. Life finds a way isn't just a cool line, it's the movie's entire argument. And it's an argument none of the sequels have been smart enough to even comprehend, let alone engage with. Like, close your eyes, hum the Jurassic Park theme, because I bet you can. John Williams delivered arguably one of the greatest, most iconic scores ever. People will say it's more iconic than Jaws, more iconic than Star Wars, and honestly, they've got a case to be right. That soaring, majestic melody doesn't just accompany the first reveal of the Brachiosaurus, it is the reveal. It perfectly captures the magnificence and the sheer heart-stopping wonder of seeing the impossible made real. But the genius doesn't just stop with the music. The sound design, which rightfully won an Oscar, is a character in of itself. The T-Rex's roar is a terrifying cocktail of a baby elephant, a tiger, and an alligator. It's so definitive, it's so bone-chilling. You simply can't imagine it sounding any other way. The chilling, clicking calls of the raptors, a mix of walrus and dolphin sounds, instantly communicate their intelligence and pack hunting tactics. It's the kind of sound that makes the hair on your arm stand up before you even see them. And Spielberg, being the master that he is, knew the most powerful tool in his arsenal is silence. The final 17 minutes of the T-Rex attack have no score at all. None. It's just the sound of rain, bending metal, terrified breathing, and that thunderous roar. It is suffocatingly tense. By stripping away the music, he makes the terror feel raw, uncinematic, and horribly immediate. Some films are just films, and some, a very rare few, are cultural events that etch themselves into the collective consciousness. Jurassic Park is one of those films. For an entire generation, this movie was everything. It tapped into that universal childhood fascination with dinosaurs and brought it to life in a way that was both magical and terrifying. It inspired a massive wave of interest in paleontology, making kids want to be scientists instead of superheroes. That feeling of pure, unadulterated awe is something the franchise has been chasing ever since and has never once recaptured because it was earned. The awe of the first film comes from a place of genuine discovery. We, the audience, are right there with Grant and Sattler. Our jaws are on the floor, seeing something that shouldn't exist. It's a moment of tangible movie magic, and it gives you chills no matter how many times you've seen it. It's a highly rewatchable movie, one that gets better with age as you start to appreciate the layers and the craftsmanship you missed as a kid. This film is a core memory for millions of people, and I'm one of them. Clocking in at a perfectly paced 2 hours, the film is a masterclass in structure. It spends nearly an entire hour on setup. An hour. In today's blockbuster landscape, that's commercial suicide, but it's essential. It takes its time to introduce the characters, establish the stakes, and patiently build the world and its rules. So when all hell finally breaks loose, it's the systematic, terrifying breakdown of a world we have come to understand. And the set pieces are legendary, not because of their scale, but because of their clarity and design. The raptors in the kitchen is possibly the most suspenseful sequence Spielberg has ever directed. It's a masterclass in tension, a claustrophobic cat and mouse game where the geography of the room is perfectly clear. We know where the kids are, we know where the raptors are, and we know there's only one way out. Every clank of a ladle, every reflection on the polished steel is used to escalate the fear. The T-Rex attack is the same. It's not a frantic, incomprehensible mess of quick cuts. The shots are held. The space is readable. We understand the layout, the 2 cars, the fence, the bathrooms, and we watch in horror as the T-Rex systematically dismantles it all. Spielberg even creates tension without dinosaurs, like when Dr. Sattler has to navigate the bunker to turn the power back on. He understands that suspense isn't about what you see, it's about what you know could happen and what you don't see. It's this patient, intelligent, and visually coherent approach to action that makes the film a perfect, terrifying machine. So here we are. The masterpiece, a film that is, for all intents and purposes, completely and utterly without flaw. It was a commercial juggernaut, the highest grossing film of all time upon its release, and a cultural phenomenon that revolutionized visual effects. It is, without question, the benchmark. And that is the ultimate tragic irony of this entire franchise. The first film was too good. It was so perfect, it was so successful and so iconic that it gave birth to one of Hollywood's worst, most creatively bankrupt franchises. It's a perfect self-contained story that explores its themes, completes its character arcs, and leaves nothing on the table. It didn't need a sequel, but it made too much damn money to be left alone. Every film since has been a desperate attempt to recapture that initial spark, failing to realize that that spark wasn't just about seeing dinosaurs on screen. It was about how we saw them, why we saw them, and the profound, terrifying questions their existence forced us to ask. The sequels just wanted to give us bigger teeth, but Spielberg gave us a soul, and that's why he will always be the king. So, after the staggering genre-defining success of the first film, a sequel was inevitable, and for a long time the consensus on The Lost World was complicated. It's a film that's often dismissed as a massive step down, a cynical cash grab, and in many ways, it is. But rewatching it now, something has shifted. The film has aged surprisingly well, not into a masterpiece, but into a fascinating, fantastically entertaining piece of 90s blockbuster pulp. It's not the first film. Let's get that out of the way right now. It lacks the tight narrative, that sense of wonder, and the memorable characters. But you have to respect what Spielberg was trying to do here. He made a huge effort to shoot a completely different movie, and that ambition, even when it fails, makes The Lost World a far more interesting failure than the soulless sequels that would follow. It's a darker, meaner, more brutal film that trades awe for action and cynicism for suspense. It's messy, it's flawed, but damn, it's fun to watch. Spielberg himself once admitted that his sequels aren't as good as his originals because he gets too confident, and you can feel that confidence, or maybe overconfidence. It's dripping in every frame of The Lost World. He's not here to recapture the magic, he's here to show you the nightmare. The shift in tone is immediate and visceral. The film opens with one of the most genuinely traumatic scenes in the entire franchise. A wealthy family on a private beach and their young daughter getting swarmed and attacked by a pack of compies. They're land piranhas and they go straight for a child. It's a horrifying, brutal opening that instantly tells you that the wonder is gone. Welcome to the jungle. This darker approach permeates the entire film. The cinematography is heavier on the shadows, with more menacing backlight, creating a far more intense atmosphere. Even the dinosaurs have changed. The T-Rexes in this film are relentless, almost malicious pursuers. They hunt the humans down seemingly out of sheer stubborn rage because the noise from the trailer was keeping their baby awake. This is a fundamental shift from the first film's mantra of life finds a way. Here, life wants to tear you to pieces and it holds a grudge. It's Spielberg expertly building suspense and delivering sequences of pure unadulterated terror. But here's where the film starts to buckle. For all its technical brilliance, the script of The Lost World is a bit of a mess. It feels more like a series of excuses to get people eaten by dinosaurs. The narrative lacks a clear focus and at times is just plain boring. The film gestures at the same great themes as the original, the hubris of man, the consequences of meddling with nature, but it never actually commits to exploring them. It raises a great moral dilemma about whether the dinosaurs should be preserved or left to die, and then completely sidesteps it for the next action set piece. The biggest issue is that the film feels like two different movies stitched together. The first half, set on Isla Sorna, is a genuinely solid Jurassic Park movie. It's an expedition gone wrong, a tense survival story with some fantastic sequences. But then, the film completely derails itself. Suddenly, we're in a city-based monster movie and it feels like a completely different script was slammed onto the end of the first one. It's ambitious for sure, but it lacks the elegant structure and intellectual depth that made the original so compelling. The story just doesn't take any risks or do anything particularly interesting, leaving you with a film that's all spectacle and very little soul. The decision to put Jeff Goldblum's Ian Malcolm front and center was definitely a bold one, and it's both the film's greatest strength and a significant weakness. Goldblum is, as always, magnetic. I can't imagine anyone else playing this role. He slips back into Malcolm's skin effortlessly, but the character has changed. He's no longer the slick, witty chaos theorist. He's a traumatized, paranoid, and grouchy dad. His reputation has been ruined after trying to expose the truth of the first film, and he's reluctantly dragged back into the very nightmare that he escaped. He's the voice of reason in a world gone mad, but he worked better as a sharp, supporting commentator than as the anchor for the entire film. The new characters here are also a mixed bag, to put it mildly. Julianne Moore is excellent as Sarah Harding, a capable paleontologist, but she's saddled with some bafflingly stupid decisions, like walking around wearing a jacket soaked in the blood of a baby T-Rex. Vince Vaughn feels completely out of place as the eco-saboteur Nick Van Owen in what is easily his least interesting role. The true standout is the late great Pete Postlethwaite as Roland Tembo, the great white hunter who's only on the island for one reason: to hunt the ultimate prey, a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He has a moral code, an intimidating presence, and a quiet indifference that makes him the most compelling character in the whole friggin' movie. And then there's Malcolm's daughter Kelly. She is, without a doubt, one of the most annoying characters in blockbuster history, whose only purpose seems to be to put everyone in danger so Malcolm actually has something to be anxious about. And this all culminates in the infamous gymnastics scene, where she saves the day by using her uneven bar skills to kick a raptor out of a window. It is a moment of such baffling, cheesy stupidity that it has to be seen to be believed. Now, for all of its narrative flaws, The Lost World is absolutely packed with thrilling, masterfully directed set pieces. Spielberg knows how to deliver the goods, and there are sequences here that stand among the best in the entire franchise. The T-Rex attack on the trailer hanging off the cliff is amazing. It's nail-biting, and it's pure suspense. The raptor attack in the tall grass is another iconic, terrifying sequence that makes you squirm in your seat. A scene so important, they grew the grass for a year just to shoot it. But the film's big, memorable swing is unleashing the dinosaurs on the mainland. The entire San Diego sequence is probably the best part of the movie. It's Godzilla-inspired rampage that we never knew we needed, a chaotic and wildly fun climax that sees a T-Rex tearing through suburbs, crashing into a bus, and eating a dog in its backyard. It's completely insane, it's a little bit goofy, but it's utterly spectacular. For all the film's shortcomings, and there are plenty, you can't say Spielberg didn't deliver on the dinosaur carnage. John Williams also returns to score the film, and while the soundtrack isn't as instantly iconic as the first, it's still a fantastic piece of work. The music is much darker and more menacing, perfectly matching the film's brutal tone. It incorporates the original themes to create a sense of familiarity, but builds on them with new thunderous action cues for the Raptor and T-Rex attacks, even adding elements of King Kong-style monster music for the San Diego finale. The sound design is once again magnificent. It expands on the groundbreaking work of the first film, with the terrifying screams of the raptors and the bone-rattling roars of the T-Rexes becoming even more defined. The sound of these creatures is so ingrained in our minds, this franchise literally wrote the book on how dinosaurs should sound, and The Lost World continued that legacy with terrifying perfection. But rewatching it now, I'd file this movie under messy, muscular, and alive. Spielberg trades wonder for predation, and when the script gets out of its own way, lands two of the franchise's best sequences: the cliffhanger trailer siege and the tall grass cull. The character work does wobble, the theme work is sketched, and the San Diego detour plays like a second movie bolted on at the end, despite how good it is. But the craft, the blocking, the geography, the sound, and a meaner Williams palette keeps it gripping. It's not the heir to Jurassic Park, but as 90s pulp, it's weirdly sturdy. B-tier Spielberg with A-tier set pieces, worth keeping for the nightmare tone and the staging lessons. And then we come to the forgotten middle child of the franchise, Jurassic Park III. This is the black sheep, the one that's not quite a disaster, but certainly is not a masterpiece. It's a straightforward, unapologetic action-adventure, a 90-minute chase sequence that's lean, mean, and utterly brain-dead. For some, it's a guilty pleasure. For me, that's certainly the case. It's a fun, fast-paced monster movie that gets in and gets out without overstaying its welcome. It's the shortest film in the series by a long shot, and a franchise that would later become bloated and self-important, that brevity is almost a virtue. But let's be honest, this is where the rot started to set in for the franchise. This is where the franchise traded its soul for a quick adrenaline fix. It's not a terrible film, but it's a hollow one, a forgettable episode in a series that once felt like a monumental event. The first sign that things were different was the man in the director's chair. Spielberg was out. He'd had his fun, admitted his sequels weren't as good as his originals because he got too confident, and wisely stepped back into a producer role. In his place came Joe Johnston, a capable journeyman director with a background in effects at ILM and a resume that included solid family adventures like Jumanji and The Rocketeer. He was a safe pair of of hands, but he was handed a grenade. The production was, by his own admission, a living hell, with shooting starting before the script was even finished. The story went through endless rewrites, with Johnston even rejecting Spielberg's initial pitch of Grant living on the island because he knew, correctly, that Grant would never willingly return to that nightmare. Johnston isn't a visionary like Spielberg, he's a craftsman. He keeps the Spielbergian opening kill to set the tone, but his direction is less about awe and more about B-movie efficiency. The warm golden hues of the first two films are gone, replaced with cooler, harsher blues. Johnston's main directive was simple: more teeth, and the film delivers. It introduces the Spinosaurus, a new apex predator, bigger, meaner, and more relentless than the T-Rex. In a move that still pisses off fans to this day, the film stages a title fight between the two titans. The Spinosaurus wins in a brutally short 20-second smackdown that serves as a mission statement for the entire film. The old king is dead, long live the new, more aggressive monster. The action is constant. We get new dinosaurs like the Ceratosaurus and Ankylosaurus, and the raptors are back with a fresh coat of paint, some now sporting proto-feathers, a cool nod to paleontology and a more complex social structure. But the film's standout sequence is the Pteranodon attack in the giant aviary. It's genuinely terrifying, it's claustrophobic, and it's a set piece that feels like it was ripped from a survival horror game. For a few glorious minutes, the film recaptures that primal fear of being hunted by something ancient and intelligent. It's a reminder that even on autopilot, this franchise can still deliver moments of pure, effective monster movie horror. But the single best decision this movie made was bringing back Dr. Alan Grant. Sam Neill slips back into the role effortlessly, and he is the undeniable heart and soul of the film. He's the anchor of credibility in a sea of stupidity. Grant is older, wiser, and thankfully, he's gotten over his aversion to kids. The real surprise is Eric, the kid who survives on the island for 8 weeks. He's not annoying, he's resourceful and competent, a far cry from the screaming plot devices we get in later sequels. And then there's the Kirbys. Taya Leone's Amanda Kirby might be the single most irritating character in the entire franchise, a woman whose only function is to scream and make catastrophically stupid decisions and put everyone in mortal danger. William H. Macy is a fantastic actor, completely wasted on a wet blanket character who tells terrible jokes. Their marital squibbles are painfully unfunny, and you spend most of the movie actively rooting for a dinosaur to eat them. There's no real human antagonist here either. The characters are just plot devices on legs, and the film feels like nothing more than a series of scenes where people run away from dinosaurs. The pacing is also relentless, which keeps things from getting boring, but the film ends so abruptly it feels like they just ran out of film. A sudden rescue, a quick look at some pteranodons flying away, and roll credits. It's a jarring, unsatisfying conclusion to a story that barely existed in the first place. John Williams also stepped back, passing the composer baton to Don Davis. Now, Davis does a functional job, incorporating Williams' iconic themes, but his new material is largely unmemorable. The classic Jurassic Park theme does make an appearance, but it's a noticeably shortened one. It's almost neutered, as if the film itself knows it hasn't earned that majestic swell of emotion. But the real star here is the sound design, which remains excellent. The Spinosaurus's roar is an iconic, guttural bellow, and the new, more nuanced vocalizations of the raptors effectively sell their intelligence. Visually, however, the film is a mixed bag. This is where the CGI really starts to show its age a little bit. While the first two films used animatronics for their close-ups, JP3 relies heavily on digital models, and in many shots, they look rubbery and weightless. The Spinosaurus animatronic in particular often looks like a clunky machine, and yet, ironically, the actual design of the dinosaurs in this film is arguably the best in the franchise, with vibrant, complex color palettes that make them visually striking. JP3 is ultimately a functional, occasionally thrilling, but ultimately unremarkable entry. It's a theme park ride, and it set a dangerous precedent that this franchise could survive without a brain, so long as the teeth were sharp enough. 14 years. For 14 long years, the franchise lay dormant. A fossil record of what a blockbuster could be. But then, in 2015, Hollywood's finest necromancers dug it up, pumped it full of cash and nostalgia, and unleashed Jurassic World. And the world went absolutely insane for it. It was a money-making machine that shattered box office records. But for all its commercial glory, the film itself was the cinematic equivalent of Taco Bell. It's cheap, it's greasy, you know it's bad for you, but in the moment, it hits the spot just right. It was a safe, simple, back-to-basics soft soft reboot, a perfectly engineered dose of nostalgia that gave fans the glorious dinosaur carnage they'd been craving since JP3 left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. For many, it was the best Jurassic Park movie we'd seen since the original. For others, it was a dumbed-down, cynical rehash that completely missed the point. And the truth is, they were both right. The film's undeniable anchor and the single best reason it works at all is Chris Pratt as Owen Grady. Fresh off his star-making turn in Guardians of the Galaxy, Pratt brought a charisma and swagger that the franchise needed. He was funny, he was believable in the action scenes, and he was easily the most likable character in the entire damn movie. His connection with Blue and the Raptor Squad was the film's single best new idea, a bond that felt surprisingly real and emotionally resonant. You actually believed this guy had a relationship with these creatures, which is more than you can say for any of the human relationships in the later sequels. Opposite him, Bryce Dallas Howard's Claire Dearing is saddled with being the stereotypical corporate ice queen, but at least she gets an arc, transforming from a pencil pusher in heels to, well, a pencil pusher who can run from a T-Rex in heels. Her journey embodies the film's central and only theme, the return of human hubris. It's a direct echo of Ian Malcolm's warning from 1993. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should. Only this time, the scientists have been replaced by marketing executives. And that brings us to the park itself. For the first time, we get to see John Hammond's dream fully realized, a sprawling, fully operational theme park that had finally passed its health and safety inspection. Mostly. It's a world teeming with thousands of guests, gift shops, and even a Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville, because of course it is. The visual effects are impressive, they're flashy, and for the most part, the dinosaurs look great. But this is where this franchise's new corrosive philosophy takes hold. Bigger, louder, more teeth. The film tells us that the audiences have grown bored with regular dinosaurs. They need something new, something scarier. The film trades the tangible, groundbreaking blend of practical and digital effects from the original for a green-screened enormity that, while spectacular, quickly exhausts its capacity to awe. As a soft reboot, Jurassic World is drowning in nostalgia. We get blatant callbacks, from the return to the old visitor center to the iconic shot of the T-Rex roaring in triumph at the end. They even bring back Dr. Henry Wu, just to make sure you remember he was the guy who made all the original dinosaurs. Some of the new ideas like weaponizing raptors are introduced, but they feel underdeveloped and an excuse for the next action sequence. The film is constantly trying to balance homage with new ideas, but it leans so heavily on the past. And here's the tragic irony. Jurassic World was an absolute monster at the box office. It made so much money that it effectively reset the franchise's DNA, and not in a good way, but by proving that you don't need intelligent characters, a compelling story, or the soul of the original to make $1 billion. All you need is a bigger monster and a healthy dose of nostalgia. Its commercial success was the worst thing that could have happened to the series because it guaranteed sequels that the story absolutely didn't need, setting the stage for a new era of bigger, dumber, and louder mediocrity. This is where the franchise, in a moment of sheer baffling confidence, hired a genuinely terrific director and then handed him a script written on a cocktail napkin. J.A. Bayona, the man behind the genuinely terrifying The Orphanage and the emotionally devastating A Monster Calls, was brought in to play in the sandbox, and my god, does he make that sand look good. Fallen Kingdom is without a doubt one of the most beautifully shot films in the entire franchise. Bayona brings a legitimate horror element back to the series using light, shadow, and impeccable framing to build a sense of dread that had been extinct since 1997. The opening sequence alone with its tense, rain-lashed atmosphere is probably the best opening kill of the entire series. It's a stunning reminder that in the hands of a true artist, these films can be more than just CGI demolition derbies. The problem is, all that visual flair is in service of a story that is profoundly, fundamentally broken. Fallen Kingdom is two completely different movies duct taped together, and the seam is not pretty. The first half is, against all odds, a pretty great Jurassic Park movie. We're back on Isla Nublar, a volcano is about to blow, and our heroes have to go back to save the dinosaurs from a second extinction. The setup is actually solid, the moral dilemma is interesting, and the action is fantastic. The gyrosphere sequence is a suspense-filled nightmare, and the shot of the Brachiosaurus being consumed by ash and lava is a moment of genuinely beautiful, heartbreaking tragedy that Bayona directs to perfection. For about 45 minutes, you think, okay, maybe they've actually figured it out. But then the movie has a complete psychotic break. Suddenly, we're not on a primordial island. We're in a gothic mansion in Northern California for a goddamn dinosaur auction. The film shifts from an island catastrophe to a haunted house horror flick, where the Indoraptor, our new lab-grown monster, stalks our heroes through shadowy corridors. It's a bold, bizarre turn, and while Bayona milks it for all the atmospheric tension it's worth, it feels like the last 15 minutes of The Lost World stretch into an entire second act. A loose collection of scenes of people running around a mansion with no real narrative momentum beyond don't get eaten. This film is bursting with bold ideas that it has absolutely no idea what to do with. It opens with a huge moral debate and the rights of these animals, a legitimately great question for the franchise to tackle, and then just glosses over it entirely to get to the next explosion. And then there's the big twist. Macy, the young girl at the center of the mansion plot, is actually a human clone. It's a creative, smart, and genuinely shocking idea that pushes the series into new thematic territory, but it adds almost nothing to the movie. It's a fascinating concept that the script simply abandons. The entire plot is a convoluted, contrived mess of evil, greedy corporate schemes driven by Mills, a bland and forgettable villain. And the Indoraptor, for all its creepy potential, is wasted on an idiotic weaponization plan involving a laser pointer and a sonic signal. And the character development, or rather the complete lack of it, is just as frustrating. Chris Pratt is back as Owen, and he's still charming as hell, but the character had zero growth since the last film. His entire motivation is, once again, blue. Bryce Dallas Howard's Claire is a bit better, having evolved from a corporate drone into a passionate dinosaur rights activist, but she and Owen still have all the romantic chemistry of two wet towels. The new side characters are a complete wash too. One is a walking stereotype of a cowardly tech nerd, and the other is a tough as nails paleo veterinarian who feels like a cheap copy of Sarah Harding. Even Jeff Goldblum's much hyped return as Ian Malcolm is nothing more than a glorified cameo, where he shows up to deliver a few philosophical lines that the film then proceeds to completely ignore. For all its narrative sins, you can't say Fallen Kingdom isn't entertaining. As a pure turn your brain off popcorn movie, it kind of delivers the goods. The visuals are spectacular, and the blend of CGI and practical animatronics is the best it's been since the original trilogy. The dinosaurs feel tangible again. The action sequences are inventive and thrilling, from the stampede during the volcanic eruption to the Indoraptor's terrifying rooftop chase. It's a fun, fast-paced ride that gives you exactly what you paid for: dinosaur chaos. It's a perfectly serviceable blockbuster that never once really asks you to think. Ultimately, Fallen Kingdom's entire purpose is to be a bridge. It's a setup movie, a messy 2-hour-long prologue for Jurassic World Dominion. It only exists to find a reason to get the dinosaurs off the island and into the real world, setting the stage for a new era. And in its final moments, as we see Blue looking out over a suburban California neighborhood and the Mosasaurus about to terrorize some surfers, the film finally lands on a truly exciting idea. But it's a promise of a better movie to come, not a satisfying conclusion to the one we just watched. It sacrifices its own story for the sake of a sequel, a gamble that would only pay off if Dominion was worth the wait, and we all know how that turned out. And so we arrive at the end of the line, the grand finale, the epic conclusion to the Jurassic era that was supposed to tie together 30 years of filmmaking. Jurassic World Dominion was pitched as the end game of this franchise, the moment where everything converged into a satisfying, monumental whole. Instead, it was one of the most muddled, convoluted, and soul-crushingly disappointing blockbusters I have ever seen. A film so brazenly disinterested in its own premise that it feels less like a conclusion and more like a hostage situation. A profound betrayal of the promise made at the end of Fallen Kingdom. So Dominion plays its trump card, the one it's been holding up its sleeve for 7 years, the full-blown legacy cast reunion. This was the biggest draw, a shameless, last-ditch blast of nostalgia manipulation designed to get butts in seats. And for a few fleeting moments, it almost works. Seeing Grant, Sattler, and Malcolm back together provides a genuine spark, but the script immediately turns them into jokey caricatures of their former selves. Sam Neill's Grant is reduced to delivering modern, quippy one-liners that make no sense for his character. And Jeff Goldblum, bless him, is just there to deliver his Goldblum lines. Quirky, try-hard zingers that lack the effortless cool of his original performance. Meanwhile, the new guard is still there. Owen and Claire are on another rescue mission, this time for Blue's baby and the clone girl Macy, who has all the personality of a damp piece of cardboard. The single best addition to this entire trilogy arrives in this film. DeWanda Wise as the charismatic pilot Kayla Watts. She's the only new character who feels like a complete human being, and she effortlessly steals pretty much every scene she's in. But how do these two generations finally meet? Do their paths cross over in a clever, organic way? Of course not. They literally just run into each other at the evil corporation's headquarters. It's a moment of such lazy, contrived convenience that it perfectly encapsulates the thoughtless, just get it done ethos of the entire script. The stage was set. Dinosaurs are now living among us across the globe. The potential was limitless here. A post-apocalyptic survival story, a deep dive into ecological chaos, a thrilling debate about humanity's place in the food chain. Instead, we get locusts. Giant, gene-spliced locusts. I'm not kidding. The movie sidelines its entire epic premise for a plot about corporate espionage and giant bugs destroying the world's wheat supply. Who wanted this? Who walked out of Fallen Kingdom thinking, you know what this franchise needs? More entomology. The film is barely about dinosaurs. It's about animal cruelty, food supplies, and evil corporations. It's a muddled, unfocused disaster that completely undermines the very thing that makes this franchise special. Now, sure, Dominion gives you all the dino carnage you could ask for. There are plenty of action sequences, from a raptor chase through Malta to a tense encounter on a frozen lake, but the magic is gone. The action is huge in scope, but it lacks the claustrophobia and raw terror of the originals. The dinosaurs here aren't characters, they're obstacles. They are boss battles in a video game, interchangeable monsters that could be replaced with robots or aliens without changing the scene at all. These sequences are just action extenders, designed to pad out the runtime between plot points about locust DNA. There's a cool fight between a T-Rex and the Giganotosaurus in the last 15 minutes, but by that point, it's too little too late. If there's one thing you can't fault Dominion for, it's the visuals. The dinosaurs, for the most part, look fantastic. The CGI is advanced enough that you can just sit back and enjoy the escapism. The film offers an expanded roster of species, and the designs are creative and impressive. This is the one area where the franchise continues to deliver. Testament to the artists at ILM that even when the story is this irredeemably broken, the spectacle can still, on a purely visual level, be moderately enjoyable. As a conclusion, Dominion is an abject failure. A film that had the potential to be an epic, generation-spanning finale, but storytelling was clearly its last priority. The plot is formulaic, lazy, and thoughtless, coasting on shameless nostalgia baiting and the goodwill of a fan base it clearly holds in contempt. It takes no risks, it says nothing interesting, and leaves you feeling hollow and exhausted. So, where does that leave us? The sequels completely misunderstood what made the first film a classic. The thrill was the suffocating silence before the roar, the ripple in the water, the sheer terror built on patience and clarity. They swapped that out for quippy one-liners during an attack, technology that never fails, and consequence-free escapes. The dinosaurs stopped being animals and became video game bosses. The characters became screaming plot devices. The franchise kept chasing bigger, louder, more teeth, while starving the two things that made the original immortal: suspense and a soul. So to answer the question I asked at the very beginning of this video, can this franchise ever be redeemed? Yes, but it has to stop being a brand and start being a movie again. The path back isn't a secret. It's about choosing wonder over spectacle. Make the world feel real again. Let the tools fail. Let the people improvise. Make choices. Have actual painful consequences. sequences. Bring back the tactile details, the breath on the glass, the claw scraping on the metal, the sheer tangible weight of these creatures. Use silence to build dread, and please let the jokes land after the danger has passed, not during it. The dinosaurs don't need to be bigger, they just need to feel present. The characters don't need to be louder, they need to make choices that matter. The next great Jurassic film isn't about topping the T-Rex, it's about earning the moment you finally show it. Wonder isn't extinct in this series, it's just endangered, and it's time to bring it back from the brink. So, if you've made it this far into the video, you're my kind of movie nerd to start with. Let me know your thoughts down in those comments below. I want to hear it all. What do you think was the exact moment this franchise went completely off the rails? And if you were in charge, what's your keep, fix, and ditch list for the next movie? More importantly, is there one scene from any of the sequels that you think genuinely works? The one moment that still gives you that spark of awe? Honestly, I read the comments for the debates, not the praise, so argue with me. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me my 5 rules are garbage and pitch your own. Just keep it civil. And if you want more deep dives like this and fewer excuses for lazy Hollywood blockbusters, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. It's free, it helps the channel out, and it tells the algorithm you prefer Wonder over wallpaper. And until next time, take care.